since my background is more of a technologist, I view healthcare more from that perspective than maybe healthcare practitioners might look at it from a totally different perspective. So the two trends that I see from a technology point that are going to have an impact is what I call persistent monitoring and personalized medicine. So if you look at what's happening out there, that with the emergence of networking and miniaturization, we are carrying more and more wearable electronics. Right? So you had smartphone, you had Fitbit, now you have wristwatch, you'll have an eye with Google Eye and Google Glasses. So these things are eventually going to get embedded in our clothing, in our shoes, in our undergarments. And what that allow us to do is to monitor our physiology 24/7 with the connectivity to backends as well. And even today, there are radios. We think of radio as something, while it's reduced in size, still in the form of, say, an iPhone. So an iPhone is a radio, right? But actually, even today, there is a new chip that Stanford University has created that is the size of a rice grain. And it can transmit and receive data. And it requires no power. It harnesses power. So you can imagine now you can sort of eat the radio, and as it travels through your body, senses what's going on. You will eventually, these kind of devices could be implanted under the skin, and they could monitor blood flow. So when you connect them to the cloud and with tools that are analyzing that data, like Alere Analytics or others, now interesting things can be done. You can be forewarned much earlier as to what's going on, and therefore require a much less intrusive, way to preempt deteriorating physiology. So that's one trend, and what I call this thing is, with this smartness. So the term being used is, smart cities, smart house, smartphone. So it's basically intelligence coming into and getting built into our infrastructure, and that infrastructure could be, cities, or it could be a very personalized infrastructure. So that's one big trend that I see happening. The second thing that I see is personalized medicine. And even there, you can see individuals' genome being synthesized, and based on that, risk factors being determined, specialized medicine being developed. And even in our talk in the open event, Hinesh already talked about, generating individual cells, which, like heart cells, that do not generate after 6 months of growth. So that when you couple that with the monitoring, right, which I talked about, SmartHealth, now the question becomes, if something starts going wrong, how do you come and fix it? And there you can see a trend in Coke vending machines. Like previously, when you had vending machines, they had to logistically place different types of Coke bottles or cold drinks in the machines, and sometimes the one that you wanted wasn't there. And so the new Coke vending machine that we have seen actually don't stock anything in the bottles, right? They synthesize on your demand. You press up, you say, I want one of these 100 flavors, and it picks up, and you say press, it just creates that flavor, right? You can see that in coffee machines, right? You want a certain kind of a Java shot, and you can create that shot. Essentially, what's happening behind the scenes, behind the covers, is a whole bunch of chemistry, controlled chemistry going on. And you can extrapolate from that and say, for a large number of human disorders, you could conceivably have these kind of drug synthesis happening under the skin. Like once you have smart monitors that are monitoring your health, you can actually create medicine on the fly that you need to then preempt. So this whole thing about how you monitor health and how do you interject and cause corrections is going to undergo changes because of the new technology. I am in the field of computers, and if you see in computers, there is a positive feedback going on in that once we create a better computer, CPU, or a chip, say Intel comes with a new chip, the first typical application that it gets employed for is designing a better computer. And that's what I call a positive feedback. And that's why you see these incredible improvements happening every other year. You know, the speed improves. You need to upgrade your iPhone to iPhone 6 because the apps on iPhone 4 don't run fast anymore. And so that positive feedback is what has created this quote unquote computer revolution, right? So if you take the same analogy, and by the way, this equivalence hasn't happened in cars or airplanes. You know, a car is still pretty much the same as Ford Model T, and an airplane doesn't fly any faster. And so this is very unique. So in order to really create revolutionary improvements in medicine, I think the one thing that we need to do, and already there's a confluence of these three very incredible technologies that's happening. One is our ability to understand how brain works, and Obama's new brain initiative. If you are unaware of that, I'd suggest that you look it up. It's pretty impressive. So there's a whole bunch of funding going on in understanding how the brain works. On the second side, there's huge improvements being made in nanotechnology, which is enabling us to miniaturize our senses. And the third thing is this incredible research going on in pluripotent stem cells, neural stem cells. Mm-hmm. So when you combine these three technologies, you now have the ability to create meaningful interfaces with brain and computers. And at some point of time, maybe 30, 40, 50 years from now, I believe we will have the ability to expand our ability to think and have insights based on leveraging access to computers. I mean, we already have brain interfaces to motor functions, right? That's the first step. So then it'll get more and more complicated. And just like Google search has improved how we do searches, before Google search, you had to go to the library and thumb through a whole bunch of books. I think the ability for humans to have access to, are you familiar with IBM's Watson computer that played Jeopardy? Mm-hmm. So just imagine a million times more powerful than that. And now your brain can access the insights and ask it instantaneous questions. So I think if we had that kind of capability, everything that we do rationally, including health research, will increase many, many folds. And that one sort of revolutionary technology will create what I mentioned before as a positive feedback that we have in computers. I think it will leverage us, and we will look back at this time and say how backward we were when we just couldn't think. We had to use simply our hydrocarbon brain. We didn't have access to our silicon brains. And while it seems kind of far-fetched, I think it's closer than we think.
All right, great. Thank you so much